So Dr. Mahajan, hope if he can join, that would be great. However, if he cannot, then Asim here is actually an Arabic speaker. And what we have done in the past is the moderators, usually we pick out the moderator for that particular language, and then they translate the message from you. He's also an emergency room technician, a certified one, and he works, you can tell.
I'm an EMT. I don't work in the emergency room, but I work
Okay.
on an ambulance. Yeah.
Okay, so I did send him a text. I mean, if he joins, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm ready whenever you are.
Should we give a few minutes? Couple minutes, maybe? What time?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, maybe 2 more minutes.
Did the live stream start on Facebook and YouTube or no?
YouTube, I'm seeing that it's live, but I believe on the Facebook it is as well. Let me actually get my phone in tune with the Facebook.
No, you know what? The Facebook, if I go to YouTube Live, it doesn't let me do the Facebook Live.
Okay, Brother Marai is actually doing it Facebook Live, and so is Brother Ghassan.
So would you like to go Facebook Live or would you like to do?
No, just do YouTube Live.
Okay.
Because both of them are doing Facebook Live.
Oh, so they are able to do the YouTube through Facebook.
Yeah, and I can actually send you my Facebook if you want to tag that. People on my site can follow it too.
Oh, very good. Asna, are you there?
She's on the phone with me, actually.
Oh, I see.
I got kicked out because I was talking to Brother Masood on the phone.
Okay.
Let me real quick on my laptop.
Okay. And I'm going to hang up, Asna.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum
Alaikum
assalam.
assalam. Dr. Mahajan, can you share your Facebook page as a link? Because one of our colleagues is trying to find it, but they can't.
Let me see.
Thank you so much. So should we go ahead and start right now, or?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay. So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Peace be upon you all. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for our third session of Ask a Doc. These are 12 sessions being organized by Worry-Free Community every week to help the community address their questions and concerns surrounding COVID-19 and the vaccine, and encouraging people to take the vaccine so we can get out of this pandemic as soon as possible and keep everyone safe. So today we are joined and honored by Dr. Dheeraj Mahajan. He is a founder and president and CEO of the Chicago Internal Medicine Practice and Research and leads its affiliated group of companies. He is a nationally recognized subject matter expert and speaker on physician alternate payment models, clinical documentation integrity, denial management, interoperability, quality measurement in post-acute and long-term care and transitional care quality improvement. Dr. Mahajan serves on several technical expert panels for Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services and National Quality Forum. Thank you so much, Dr. Mahajan, for joining us today and informing us and addressing all our questions about COVID-19. I'm briefly going to introduce myself. My name is Asim Lethi. I'm an EMT, and I'm currently joining Worry-Free Community as a community health worker. I will also be translating in Arabic for those Arabic speakers that are joining us. So we are going to start by a brief presentation about COVID-19 and the vaccines.
Thanks, Asim. While you get this in a presentation mode, hello, everyone. I'm again, as Asim said, Dheeraj Mahajan. I'm here in Oak Park, Illinois, and again, thank Worry-Free Community for this opportunity, and I personally have been involved. Thank you, Dr. Mubarak, who happens to be my associate, and when I just found out that we were going to have quite a few Arabic speaking folks, I just wanted him to join me and help me out. I know, Asim, you're going to translate, but I'm sure from medical perspective, he has been right there with me at the front lines. We actually, for last almost 3.5 months, have been one of the very busy group that has worked with the Cook County, City of Chicago, Lake County, and DuPage County, vaccinating people, especially with the minority communities and seniors, and also folks in the underserved and subsidized low-income housing. So we definitely have seen our share of concerns among the community members who have a lot of questions and concerns about vaccines and safety. And so I think that really brings us very close to the truth and also what people are looking for. So I am going to be brief. The slides here are fairly extensive and have a lot of information. And I will hope the organizers will take the slides and distribute it, because the information, there's no way we can read all of that. But we will do a very high level distillation of most of those slides. And then I would love to have more of an interactive, either via chat or one-on-one. People can unmute themselves. I know this is being streamed at various platforms, and so if you are on either Facebook or YouTube or one of those, please send your questions in as we go along. We will be happy to answer those. And so getting right in, next slide, please. So what we're going to discuss today is mainly about vaccines, and we can talk a little bit about COVID-2 and the virus, so people have some basics of it. But the slides mainly talk about the vaccines and how they were developed and why they are safe, and how to make sure we let everybody know that it is the right thing to go ahead and take the vaccine. So some of the questions we're going to talk about today is why should we get vaccinated? What are the kind of vaccines that are out there? What is the technology behind these vaccines? We're going to talk about Johnson & Johnson, right? We experienced that over the last 7 to 10 days of something. The whole super effective safety monitoring, that if there is even an iota of doubt about safety, that we will stop, take a step back, review the data, and make sure that what we're doing is absolutely safe. And so we're going to talk about some of the trials as to when these vaccines were developed, how did we test them, and did we make sure that they were safe? And again, after that, we will have an open question and answer session, and hopefully we're able to answer all your questions. Next slide, please. So before this, just a little background. We were over a year into this pandemic. We know it's COVID-19 stands for corona virus disease, and it's 19 is because it started in 2019. We all know it initially was seen in the Wuhan province in China. And from that, it didn't take much time to become a global pandemic. A pandemic of this magnitude last time was the Spanish flu of 1918, around that time. And as we know, worldwide, we have millions of infections and deaths, and we have seen U.S. being an epicenter throughout. Since the rollout vaccine, we have starting to see the effect. And again, my specialty is in nursing homes, and it just was a godsend when vaccines started getting out to the nursing homes. The infections and the deaths were almost within a month or so of vaccination, just plummeted. And so it still continues to be a very, very infectious virus. And we have seen recently, within the last 3 to 4 days, almost a week, what has happened in India. And so we have to be very, very proactive with all the measures, and vaccines definitely are the most important thing that will help us get through this. We all want normalcy. We all want to go back to restaurants. We all want to have the weddings and the parties. But again, it's going to take a lot. And vaccines for sure are one of the most important step towards getting there. So again, why should we get vaccines, right? So it is about us. It's about everybody around us, and also it is something that that we try not to use the term herd immunity, but again, every person who's vaccinated, that cuts that chain of infection spreading can help. And we've seen those graphs initially when we talked about the flattening of the curve is how when you use a mask and when you do social distance, i.e., that you not only you don't get sick, but you also do not pass it along to the next person, because each person who gets sick can then infect dozens of people down the stream. And each person who's protected, either using a face mask or not, being close proximity with the droplet and the airborne infection that we have, we can cut that transmission. So obviously, when you get vaccinated, you get that protections against the disease, and then also you also do not then have the ability to infect people because you don't have. So it is a combined. It's not just for you. It's for, it's for example, right now, it's not approved for kids. And if we as a symptomatic infectious person, we are able to, affect. And again, if we have kids that have respiratory problems like asthma or other chronic conditions, they might have bad outcomes. So we want to make sure that we protect our elders, we protect our children by doing the right thing of getting vaccinated. And so it is the step to move forward. I'm going to stop there. Asim, if you want to just kind of distill the concept a little bit, and then we'll move to the next slide.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mahajan. فأول حاجة السلام عليكم جميعا. أول حاجة الدكتور اتكلم عنها على موضوع كورونا، مرض كورونا كوفيد-19، وإن هو بدأ معنا من السنة اللي فاتت، وإن هو بقى جائحة حوالين العالم كله، وإن حاجة زي دي ما حصلتش قبل كده غير لما حصل الحمى الإسبانية في 1918. وهنتكلم النهاردة على أهمية إنك تاخد اللقاح وليه هو مهم جدا. وطبعا الفيروس كورونا كان جديد علينا كلنا، وكل المجال الطبي كان بيكتشف وبيتعلم، بس دلوقتي بعد قرابة سنة ونصف اتعلمنا أكتر وعرفنا إزاي نحمي نفسنا من الفيروس وإزاي نعالجه بطريقة أحسن من الأول. فأهم حاجة طبعا إن هو الفيروس ده مشكلته إن هو بينتشر سريع بين البشر، وممكن يأثر على بعض الناس اللي هم عندهم أمراض مزمنة بأعراض خطيرة، وبيؤدي إن هو يخش المستشفى وممكن يؤدي للوفاة في بعض الأحيان. فمهم جدا أن احنا بما إن في لقاح متاح وده بيقلل من خطورة المرض حتى لو جالك المرض بعد اللقاح، أن احنا ناخده بحيث أن احنا نرجع تاني لحياتنا الطبيعية اللي كانت قبل كده، ونحمي نفسنا ونحمي أحبابنا والناس اللي حوالينا إن شاء الله.
Thanks, Dr. Mubarak. You want to maybe a couple of words on your own experience with the vaccine, and you want to say a few words, probably in Arabic if possible.
السلام عليكم. زي ما تفضل دكتور مهاجن، COVID-19 اللي هو الديزيز، المرض اللي احنا صلنا السنة بنعاني منه كعالم أجمع، أثر على جميع جوانب الحياة من ناحية اقتصادية اجتماعية، وأهم من كل هذا الشيء صحية. إحنا حالياً عندنا الفاكسين، والفاكسين متوفر واللقاح موجود. ومع اللقاح في 3 عوامل حابب الناس كلها تعرف عنها، اللي هي 1، الفاكسين صحيح يقي من المرض، بس في عندك عوامل تانية زي ما حكى عاصم، اللي هي بيقلل من خطورة المرض عليك، هي جانب، والجانب الثاني برضه بيقلل من نسبة انتشار المرض منك انت لغيرك. واحنا هلا بالسلايدز بالمحاضرة هاي إن شاء الله حنحكي كمان عن الفاكسينز ودورها وبعض الشغلات اللي ممكن نتوقعها أو نواجهها إن شاء الله.
So again, this slide is a little dated. It should have been updated yesterday, but since this was already in production, so we're going to use this. But I will use this as an example of how strong our monitoring system is against safety and side effects and anything that might. So the moment there was a doubt that there possibly could be a serious related event, right away, CDC and FDA and US government stopped and halted the use of Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And again, we all knew because of the fact that it doesn't need to be frozen, it could be in fridge. The fact that it was only one dose, it was really very common in communities that were hard to reach, and for elders too, where not only getting one dose, but also scheduling a dose in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, like the other two, was very important. So but there was a pause for several days while the panel, the ACIP, which is the immunization group that advises both FDA and CDC, met, looked at the data, and it has been determined that those side effects of clotting in the veins inside the brain, CVST is the disease we call them, is extremely rare, and that the number of people that got that were in a very small group, almost all women in the younger age group, and that the count of 15 in almost 7 million doses did not meet the criteria of something that needs to be discontinued. So as of yesterday, we have okay to go ahead, and so now we have the 3 vaccines available right now. 2 of them use what we call mRNA technology, and that is Pfizer, the first one to be approved, then Moderna, was second one to be approved. Pfizer needs 2 doses, and that have to be 3 weeks apart or 21 days apart. Moderna, again, 2 doses, they have to be 4 weeks apart. And again, they need freezers for storage. So definitely it needs that cold chain, as we call it, to be maintained. And again, if you see, there are these efficacy rates, 95% for Pfizer, 94.1% for Moderna, and 72%. But the way it's seen is 100% of them are effective in preventing hospitalization, and for example, Johnson & Johnson almost 85% towards severe disease. So again, when we talk about what vaccine we should get, and the answer is the one you can get first. And so definitely we want to make sure that that, as you know, based on where we are, who are we getting it with, we should take the vaccine that's available. Same thing to me, same thing with Dr. Mubarak. I'm sure folks here have all gotten it. And if we take a poll, probably it's a mixed bag of the product we've received. So that's that. Next slide. And again, we will do this mRNA part of it because that is the newer, and a lot of people have questions about it before we again ask Asim and maybe Dr. Mubarak to pitch in a little bit. But really, this part is something that I wanted to spend a couple minutes on trying to explain how it works, what it is, and if it is safe or not. And so this really is the miracle of modern medicine, right? So how we very quickly on a technology that is now over 10 years old, that we have been working in the labs to develop, that it could so quickly come together with full safety and full clinical trials. So mRNA is inside our bodies. It's our nucleic or as you say, composition, and so what it does, this vaccine. So this vaccine doesn't have a virus. It has an mRNA that actually goes in and signals our body to make the spike protein. And spike protein, if you saw the picture of coronavirus, there is these dots on sticks, and that is the infectious part of the virus. And if we can have antibodies against it, we can definitely prevent the disease. And so that's what was identified by the scientist. And so the way mRNA technology works is the mRNA then signals our body to make the antibodies against spike protein, and then that's how you get immunity. And also because it's so specific against that protein, we are able to get the efficacy of up to 95% in these vaccines. So the two vaccines we have out there, the Pfizer and Moderna, are mRNA technology. And just because it is so well researched and so well prepared with technology, that we were able to get things made so soon, and definitely without them we would have been in an extended pandemic. A lot of the slowdown that we have seen in infections and deaths is because of this vaccine out there. And again, just wanted to make sure that that people don't think that we were experimenting. This is something that has been around for 10 years. It is very, very scientific, and the concept, it works as our immune system works. And again, I'm sure there will be questions on it. It's definitely something that we hold off for questions on what it does in with DNA and alteration and all of that, which is a lot of myths out there, and we'll be happy to take those questions. Asim, you want to just kind of distill the last couple of slides?
So نرجع للشريحة الأولانية. دي شريحة بتوضح مختلف اللقاحات اللي موجودة دلوقتي في السوق هنا في الولايات المتحدة. عندنا فايزر، بايونتك، وموديرنا، والJ&J. وكان قريب من حوالي 10 أيام ولا حاجة كان حصل توقيف لاستعمال لقاح الJ&J لبعض الريبورتس عن إن في غلطات في الدم وكده. ولكن ده بيتضح إن كل اللقاحات دي آمنة، وإن لو في أي حاجة استجدت في الخطورة بيبقى في توقيف على طول وبننظر في المشاكل دي. برضو شوية معلومات عامة عن اللقاحات. لقاح فايزر هو عبارة عن 2 shots في إبرتين، وواحدة ما بينهم 3 أسابيع 21 يوم. ولقاح موديرنا برضو 2 shots وما بينهم شهر حوالي 28 يوم. وكل مدى فعالية اللقاحات دي ليهم نسب مختلفة، ولكن كلهم فاعلين ب100% إن هم يمنعوا حدوث وفاة أو إن تخش المستشفى ويبقى فيه أعراض مضاعفة كبيرة جدا. الشريحة الثانية كان بيشرح كيف إن لقاحات فايزر وموديرنا دي الشرح العلمي اللي هو ازاي تطوروا وازاي العلماء استخدموا الماسنجر RNA اللي هو زي وصفة للجينات بحيث ان الخلية بتاعت الجسم تصنع الانتي بوديز الاجسام المضادة بحيث ان هو الجسم يقدر يحارب الفيروس اذا انت اتصبت بيه. وطبعا احنا عارفين ان في اسئلة كتير ومغالطات واخبار شائعة عن ان هو في تحويل في الحمض النووي بتاع الانسان وكده، فاحنا هنخلي ده في الاخر للاسئلة وبالظبط نتكلم عليها بتحديد اكتر. هو بصفة بسيطة يعني ازاي اللقاح بيشتغل. هو الماسنجر RNA هو ده جزء من زي وصفة للخلية ان هو ازاي تصنع الاجسام المضادة زي ما ذكرت. واللقاح فايزر وموديرنا بيدخل الماسنجر RNA ده الجسم، والجسم بياخد الماسنجر RNA ده ويبدأ يصنع الأجسام المضادة دي بحيث إن هو يحارب الفيروس عن طريق إن هو يقدر يستكشف الفيروس لما يخش في الجسم ويبقى عنده زي المناعة اللي هي يعني يكون جاهز للفيروس قبل ما يخش بحيث إن هو ما تكونش حاجة جديدة والجسم يقدر يتعامل معاها بصورة أفضل يعني. دكتور مبارك تحب تضيف حاجة؟
اللي بس يعني بدي أأكد على يعني شغلة مهمة اللي هي زي ما حنشوف كل السلايدز اللي حتيجي بعدين إنه فعالية الفاعلية تبعت اللقاحات تتمثل أغلبيتها في تقليل من خطورة الإصابة. يعني لا سمح الله واحد انصاب واخذ اللقاح، الخطوره تبعت او شده المرض باذن الله بتنزل من خطوره شديده لخطوره اقل، بحيث ما بتروح على المستشفى تعمل تكون قاعد في البيت وبتعمل حظر او الحجر المنزلي بحيث انك ان شاء الله تكون احسن. الشغله الثانيه زي ما حكينا اللي في كتير مغالطات وفي كتير مشاكل، يعني لأنه التكنولوجي تبعتها والسرعة اللي عملوها فيها خلت كتير ناس يفكروا إنه كيف هدول عملوه، استعجلوا عم بحطوا هذه التكنولوجي الغريبة الجديدة علينا. هاي التكنولوجي موجودة وإحنا عم نستخدمها بشغلات تانية بأمراض بأورام كانسرات مختلفة. الشغلة الثانية اللي هي زي ما حكى عاصم اللي هو الماسنجر RNA، عندنا المادة الوراثية داخل الجسم اللي هي عبارة عن كودز معينة الجسم بيستخدمها مشان يصنع بروتينات. فإحنا شو عملنا؟ خدنا ماسنجر RNA اللي هي بتعطي الشفرة مشان تعمل البروتينات اللي هي خاصة جدا بالفيروس تبع الكورونا. فالجسم أول ما بصير يصنع هدول البروتينات اللي هو مش متعود عليها، بتطلع عليها بحكي أنا عندي بروتينات غريبة، فبصنع الأجسام المضادة على هدول البروتينات، وهذه الشغلات تنحفظ بالذاكرة المناعية داخل الجسم، بحيث إذا صار تعرض للفيروس مستقبلا الجسم مباشرة بصنع الأجسام المضادة اللي بتهاجم البروتينات الخاصة جدا بالكورونا. واللي هي النقطة الأخيرة اللي هي زي ما حق موجود بالسلايد، إذا صار عندك بوزيتيف بعد إذا أخذت الفاكسين ولنفرض بعد 3-4 أسابيع صار في عندك بوزيتيف، أو خلال الأسابيع اللي بعد أخذ الفاكسين صار في بوزيتيف بالتست، فهذا مش من الفاكسين، فهذا من المرض. بس حبيتنا نوضح هاي اللي آخر نقطة موجودة بالسلايد. Go ahead, Dr. Mahaj.
So again, and then the second technology, which is something that we have used in the past, and where we use what we call a viral vector. In this case, there is So currently we have Johnson & Johnson, and we also know that there is not in US in the process to be coming here, but elsewhere, in Europe and other countries, we have AstraZeneca vaccine that's available and that use this technology where we have a virus. Again, it's not something that is going to give you illness or a disease, and it's not COVID virus. It is an adenovirus, which some of them will give you that common cold. And so that family of virus that has completely no disease-causing ability, but it is a vector, and vector is something that carries just transports information that you need to your body. And so so in this case, we have an adenovirus that has that information. So instead of having that mRNA in the Pfizer and Moderna, in Johnson & Johnson and upcoming AstraZeneca, if it gets approved, it's a virus that is not a COVID virus. It gets the same information. It tells your body to make the antibodies against the spike protein of coronavirus, and so again, this is something that has been in use for a while. We have several vaccines available now that use this technology, and so. So again, when Johnson & Johnson was approved, and we will have that information that will tell us about the studies that were done, and the way it turns out that a single dose of Johnson & Johnson was effective in preventing severe disease, and those numbers we've already discussed. And so, and next slide, please. So again, this is an old slide. This just talks about why Johnson & Johnson was held. We have not updated it, but again, as of yesterday, we have approval to start using Johnson & Johnson again. We already have clinics that have started to request just because of the way it is. And we just want to make sure people understand that the moment there was these events registered in what we call VAERS, which is the vaccine event reporting system, right away. CDC had all the information, chart reviews, patient conversations, physician, and after reviewing everything, as I started out, that it was determined that those side effects that were reported were extremely rare. And that these vaccines are safe to be used. There were some changes in indications on how we use and how we treat people who have low platelets. And again, if there are questions pertaining to that, we can take in the end. But Johnson & Johnson pause has been lifted. And it has been determined they are safe to use. So again, we have decided Dr. Mubarak and I will take it because we do have probably another 10 slides, and we are 40 minutes into an hour. And so, and Asim has gracefully agreed to moderate questions and answer towards the end. So Dr. Mubarak, you want to say a few things about the last couple of slides. Sure. You want to go back to last slide, Asim, please?
في السلايد هاي احنا بس بنشرح طريقة تانية لكيف الفيروس، كيف احنا بنقدر نعمل مناعة للفيروس. فهي هذه السلايد بس توضح اللي هي التكنولوجيا القديمة اللي احنا بنعرفها التقليدية، بانه في عنا فيروس احنا عادة بنستخدمه كوسيلة او بنسميها يعني ناقل للمادة الوراثية هاي، بحيث انه تدخل الجسم، نصنع هدول البروتينات اللي الجسم بتعرف عليها وبيعمل اجسام مضاده عليها. هلا في امريكا احنا عندنا جونسون جونسون اللي هو اللي بيستخدم هاي التكنولوجي اللي هي again هذه تكنولوجي قديمه وكانت موجوده وبنستخدمها في اكثر من انواع فيروسز اللي احنا او لقاحات معينه مختلفه احنا حاولنا نطورها او طورناها من قبل. عندك لقاح المعروف اللي هو أسترازينيكا، كتير منا اللي لسه عندهم على تواصل مع ناس بالشرق الأوسط بيعرف إنه أسترازينيكا اللي هو تبع أكسفورد البريطاني هذا كتير مش منتشر أو يعطى بالشرق الأوسط. هدول جونسون جونسون أسترازينيكا بيستخدموا نفس التكنولوجي، وبالمحصلة كتير في كتير ناس بيقبلوا عليها لأنه one single dose اللي هي جرعة واحدة فقط. نشوف كمان السلايد اللي وراها. وأجين احنا زي ما شفنا هذا الحظر كان عندنا موجود لحد امبارح لاستخدام جونسون جونسون. وبعدين بعد ما درسوا ال6 حالات اللي صارت اللي هي صارت اللي هي الجلطة لواحد من الأوعية الدموية اللي بتصب باتجاه الدماغ، هذا إشي كتير أصلا نادر جدا حدوثه. وبعدين من حوالي 7 مليون اللي أخذوا اللقاح 6 منهم صار. فالنسبة نسبة الخطورة تبعته بهذا الإشي يعني واضحة، 6 ل 7 مليون. فمشان هيك بعد ما درسوا الحالات وشافوا هدول رفعوا الحظر، وهلا المفروض تكون جاهزة ومتوفرة عندنا.
Okay, so again, one of the questions that comes is, well, we've known traditionally it takes decades to develop vaccines, and these vaccines literally within a year were out, ready to be used. And some of it has to do with this pandemic. So as I said, last time we had a pandemic of this magnitude was almost a century ago. And medicine and technology has evolved so much. And so that's number one. Number two, the need and the ability of both the pharmaceutical companies, the academic centers, the research technology group, and the governments, they all came together so fast that, so some things that were US based, something that were, Europe based, as you know, Oxford worked together with AstraZeneca, BioNTech, which is again the biotechnology company with mRNA technology, worked with Pfizer. And so everybody came together. The technology was there. The main information was to get the code for the spike protein and see what is the actual virus element that needs the antibody made against, and how can we deliver that. And so it was because of the resources came together so fast, but all the stages of the trials to determine the efficacy and safety were followed, right? And so, and we are currently in what we call emergency use authorization. And again, it's even for emergency use authorization, all the cautions are taken. We're talking about human beings. We're talking about lives, right? So nobody is going to make decisions that are going to be hurtful and harmful. So yes, it was expedited. Yes, because there were so much resources of private companies, academic centers, and hospitals. And government pulling all the resources, putting in the money that's needed to get this done, and also being able to get the volunteers to be in the trial. Each of the trial had over 40,000 people in it. traditionally, when vaccines are studied, there are 5, 6, 10,000 people in a trial. So when we're talking about before, so for people that are worried about were all these trials done the right way, yes, there were enough people. There are a bunch of slides coming up about the studies and the trials that were done. And again, we all know that so Pfizer has had emergency use authorization for almost 4 months now. And there is the word that soon Pfizer will be getting full authorization of FDA approval to be used. So it's not going to be just emergency use authorization. But again, repeating myself, that even for somebody to get emergency use authorization, in all the safety measures have been considered, and they have to go through all the stages of clinical trial for them to be considered for emergency use authorization. So that's where we are with all three products out there. We have the emergency use authorization, and all the safety has been considered and approved by the independent group that studies that, which is ACIP. Dr. Mark.
هلا السؤال اللي عند الجميع، كيف قدرنا نطور لقاح خلال مدة قصيرة؟ وهذا يمكن ساهم انه كثير من العامة لما بتطلعوا على اللقاح بتطلعوا عليه بشك او نشوف فيها نظريات غريبة برضو بتيجي عليها. بس احنا حابين نفهم وكيف هذا الاشي صار. ما ننسى انه احنا التكنولوجي هاي زي ما حكينا كانت موجودة من زمان، اللي صار فاحنا كان عندنا فكرة كيف بدنا نعمل ديزاين. هذه شغلات بتاخذ الوقت، اللي هي تصميم التجارب او تصميم اللقاح، هاي كانت تاخذ فترة. بس احنا اصلا عندنا هذه المعرفة وعندنا هاي المعلومات من قبل، فصار عندنا يعني كان في تصور كان موجود. الشغلة الثانية كمان ما ننسى انه في ضخ اموال وتجارب وابحاث كان من كل حكومات العالم باتجاه اللقاح. فاللي كان فترة من زمان اللي كان ياخذ فترة أطول مشان اللي هي الحكومات توافق على التجارب أو زي ما نحكي البيروقراطية اللي بتيجي مع التجارب العلمية، أو عدم وجود اللي هي أموال والدعم. هذا الاشي كان صار موجود، فصار ضخم بالأموال والوقت والتجارب باتجاه هذا الاشي. ولازم نطمن الجميع انه كل اللقاحات او هاي التجارب في مشان تاخذ ال FDA approval، واللي هي موافقة ال FDA اللي هي اللجنة اللي مسؤولة عن الأدوية أو موافقة أو إن توافق لتوزيع الأدوية أو لا، مرت في اللي هي جميع المراحل تبعت السلامة. لأنه مرة أخرى إحنا بنتعامل مع أرواح، بنتعامل مع ناس، ما عم نتعامل مع جمادات. فمرت كل هاي التجارب خلال بتجارب السلامة هاي، وتأكدت خلال اللي هو المراحل الثلاثة اللي كل تجربة علمية، كل تجربة لدواء بتمر فيها. وكمان الشغلة اللي أهم من هذا الإشي اللي بدينا نركز عليه، إنه في متابعة دائمة لأي أعراض، لأي إشي بيصير، ودائما بنطلع على النتائج، ونطلع على نشوف إذا صار في أي أعراض أخرى، أعراض جانبية، شغلات غير مرغوبة صار فيها. وكدليل جونسون لما أعطينا اللقاح، أول ما صار يطلعوا هدول الأعراض خلال 6 وقفوا إعطائها. الشغل الثاني اللي هو الدكتور مهاجن عم بحكي، اللي إحنا فيه هاي اللقاحات هاي عم تنعطى من خلال إيش مسميها الإمرجنسي يوز أوثرايزيشن، واللي هي إعطائه بداعي الضرورة. وقريبا حنشوف إنه حيرتفع هذا الغطاء وحيصير ينعطى كجزء من العملية.
So next couple of slides are going to talk about side effects and each of the vaccine. There are some routine side effects that we see with any vaccine, and they are in two categories, or maybe three categories. One is what we call the mild side effects, and they are local, which means where you got the injection. And then we say general, which is throughout the body. And then the third category is the severe symptoms, which are extremely rare, right? So, and if you see the common side effects, are pretty much similar to most of the vaccines, right? So you have pain where you get the injection, some redness, and then you have these symptoms of having headache, having a little bit of fever or feeling feverish, muscle aches, and weakness. Now, and we say this, when you have that, that is a good thing. That means your immunity is working, your body is in action, responding to the vaccine as it should be. And for people to say, well, if I'm going to feel weak for a day, I'm not going to take vaccine. I again, personally think that it is definitely a very strong sign of that your body is responding. And again, it is making those antibodies that you need. And again, because we want to make sure that everything is okay, the extremely rare side effects of anaphylaxis or something like that, which is bad allergic reaction, it is extremely, extremely rare. But we don't want to take that chance either. And that's why most of the people will need to be waiting and observe for 15 minutes after your injection. And then if you have certain allergies, you might be asked to wait for almost 30 minutes. And also, if there is ever a chance, which is extremely rare, of anaphylaxis or severe allergy, all clinics have what we call EpiPen or anaphylaxis or allergy management medication right there. So if that needs, we use it right away. But again, I'm saying that if you have those mild symptoms of achiness and a little bit of feeling warm and fatigue, that is definitely a sign that your body is working to make those good antibodies to protect you.
هلا بدنا لما بنعطي اي لقاح حيصير في نتائج مباشره او اعراض نتيجه للقاح. انا شخصيا صار معي كل الاعراض اللي موجوده اللي هي الكومن سايد افكتس، اللي هم الاعراض الشائعه. صار منهم بصير في عندك احمرار، او ممكن يكون في وجع في محل اعطاء الابره. عادة ممكن يصير شوية حرارة، أوجاع بالمفاصل، أوجاع في العضلات، تحس تعبان. هاي الشغلات عادة خلال يوم بتروح. الأعراض اللي هي زي ما نحكي اللي هم السيفير أو الفيري سيفير، اللي هي عادة بتيجي نتيجة للتحسس. هلا زي ما نعرف الحساسية مش بس اللي هي الواحد العطاس أو يطلع راش، في مرات تحسس شديد ممكن يأثر على نفس على التنفس. فمشان هيك إحنا لما بنعطي اللقاح نعطيه عادة بالعيادة، نستنى 15 دقيقة من فترة إعطاء اللقاح لما إحنا نحكي أوكي هلأ بتقدر تروح على بيتك. في ناس إحنا يعني خلال إعطانا الفاكسين كان عندهم بيحكي إنه والله صار عندي أعراض تحسس، هدول إحنا بنعطيهم 30 دقيقة، بنتابعهم ومن بنتأكد إنه الضغط تبعهم، التنفس، كل شيء ممتاز. وبنفس الوقت أي محل يعطى فيه الفاكسين موجودة الأدوية اللي تعطى في حالات التحسس الشديد، من ضمنها اللي هي الأبيبن واللي هي دوس أبينفرين تنعطى لحالات التحسس الشديد. اللي هي أهم إشي أعراض الفاكسين زي ما حكينا هدول شغلات عادة يوم بالكثير إن شاء الله بتكون رايحة، بس إذا بتضل حوالي 3 ل 4 أيام والأعراض تستمر، هون لازم المريض يحكي مع الطبيب أو يحكي مع الجهة اللي أعطوه الفاكسين، أو حتى إنه يشوف الطبيب الخاص أو الطبيب العام تبعهم.
Next slide. So next couple of slides, we'll talk about, they're a little bit in reverse order, but we want to make sure everybody knows that currently all adults are available, eligible to get vaccines. Pfizer is approved for 16 plus. Moderna and Johnson & Johnson are approved for 18 plus. There are some studies ongoing for vaccine use on children, adolescent 12 above. Again, that's just for your information. But as it stands now, Pfizer 16 plus and Moderna 18 plus. And also people need to know that vaccines are provided by the government for free. And for people with insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, those pay for the vaccine. Nobody should charge you anything out of your pocket for giving you the vaccine. Patients and recipients cannot be billed for vaccine or vaccine administration. But again, folks with insurance, the insurance pays for it, but there's no copay or deductible. I just wanted to let people know that. Mark.
هلا الفاكسينز متوفرة، وإحنا تعطى لأي حدا بعمر 18 فما فوق، اللي هو بالموديرنا وجونسون جونسون. فايزر يعطى من 16 فما فوق. هلا احنا تحت ال 16 لسه التجارب لساتها مستمرة، بس حاليا ما فيش موافقة لتحت ال 16. ونفس الاشي بدنا المهم ان اي حدا كان عنده تحسس شديد للجرعة الأولى، هدول ما بنعطيهم الجرعة الثانية بعديها. غير عن هيك ما في أي مانع أي حدا ياخد اللي تنطبق عليه الفئة العمرية من 18 فما فوق أو 16 فما فوق لقاح فايزر، بغض النظر عن حساسية. أنا كثير من الأسئلة بتنسأل اللي هي حساسية مثلا لقاح الإنفلونزا، يعطى اي ميديكيشن انت عليها، اي دواء بالحمل، او اذا عندك اي امراض مزمنه يعطى الفاكسين. الشغله الثانيه بدنا نعرف انه احنا عندنا الحكومه هون في امريكا اعطت الفاكسين هذا الاشي فور فري، ببلاش. ما في شيء بتدفعه out of pocket. اذا عندك انشورنس، الانشورنس هم اللي بدفعوا هذا الشيء، فيش كوباي. وهذا شيء كتير مهم، يعني في كتير ناس ما يعني هذا الشيء موجود متوفر وببلاش.
Next slide. Okay, so just quickly on pregnant women, their studies did not include them because of the ethical reasons. So when the vaccines were approved, there was a big misconception that these vaccines were not safe. That was not the reason. The reason was because of the way things were happening and the speed at which the things were happening, it was determined not to include pregnant women in the studies. Now, since then, a lot of the the American College of Gynecology and Obstetrics, these are the physician experts. They are very, very actively advocating for the use. But again, I just wanted to have that, clear that the reason why it was an ethical reason, and it's not that they're not safe. So again, if you're pregnant and you're thinking about it, it is your decision. The societies have said, okay, it's between your physician and yourself. You can make that decision. Your physician should not force you to take it. Your physician should not recommend you not to take it. It is something that you make that decision, and your physician can help you with that. So that's where we stand with pregnant women. I just want to make sure people understand that it is a misconception that the vaccine is not safe. It's just the fact that there is no data because the studies did not have pregnant women. But if you're breastfeeding, then it is definitely thought to be helpful. And in theory, the breast milk can help the baby because the antibodies get transferred through breast milk. And so if you're vaccinated, you can pass the antibodies to the baby. I mean, that's a concept. And that's, I personally will advocate that.
هلا برضو من الأسئلة اللي عم بيسألوها اللي هي مدى خطورته على الحمل، اللي هو اللقاحات مدى خطورتها على الحمل أو في فترة الرضاعة. هلا بدنا نعرف إنه السبب إنه لم يدرس أو ما لم بالتجارب هاي ما حطينا أو ما جربنا أو ما درسنا آثارها على الحوامل اللي هي لدوافع أخلاقية، ليس لسبب إنه خطير أو لا. لأنه لو نفكر فيها إنه نجيب امرأة حامل نعطيها لقاحات ونصير نحفظ، فيها عوامل أخلاقية. فمشان هيك إحنا ما هدول الدراسات والتجارب ما ضمت اللي هي الحوامل. لكن بدنا نعرف إنه الجمعية الأمريكية للطب النسائي والولادة حكوا إنه ممكن يعطى اللقاح للحوامل. مشان احنا في شغلات بدنا نعرفها، انه الحمل او الامرأة الحامل واذا اصيبت بمرض كوفيد هذا بعطيهم خطورة اكثر ونسبة اكبر لانهم يكونوا بالمستشفى او يحتاجوا لعناية حثيثة، وكثير منهم يحتاج الى عناية حثيثة وأكثر من والوسائل للتنفس الصناعي. الشغلة الثانية اللي بدنا نعرفها إنه الطبيب لازم يكون موقفه حيادي، يوفر المعلومات. القرار أولاً وأخيراً برجع للامرأة إذا هي حامل، بعد ما تدرس الموضوع تقرر إذا أنا بدي أخذ الفاكسين أو أنا ما بديش أخذ الفاكسين. الطبيب لا ما بصير إنه يمنع أو ما بصيرش إنه يجبر المريض تبعه إنه يأخذ الفاكسين. الشغلة اللي بدنا نعرفها كمان هلأ في حالة الرضاعة مختلفة تماماً. الرضاعة بالعكس إحنا بنحبذ إنه يأخذوا الفاكسين، لأنه بدنا نعرف الأجسام المضادة عادة خلال أول 6 أشهر. كمعلومة عامة بشكل عام الأجسام المضادة عادة تنتقل من حليب الأم للرضيع، ومشان هيك إحنا بنحبذ إنه والله بعد الحمل عادة إحنا بنشجع إنه ياخذوا اللقاحات.
So again, the next several slides I will go through, and then I'll have Dr. Mora come back. And these are just the tables for reference as to see who was part of these trials. And we just wanted to show you that it was a very well-balanced trial. So obviously, there was a fair number of African-American and Asian people in all trials. And so this slide shows the number of people that participated in each trial. Next slide. And again, another composition of who were the people, then what kind of conditions they had. So let's talk about, people with diabetes, lung disease, liver problems. So there were a fair number of people in these trials who had multiple conditions. And that's the breakdown on this slide for you. Next slide. We will save this slide. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so let's go back to the 2 slides of the studies. And if you want to, Dr. Mubarak, just very quickly, just say the same thing so we can answer the variant question.
هي بس بسرعة هلا هي اللي هي بس أرقام للدراسات اللي انعملت بالمختلف اللقاحات، وبنشوف هنا كيف انها تمثل القطاعات المختلفة بالمجتمع الأمريكي. بنشوف كيف انه النسب برضو كلها متراوحة وفي تمثيل جيد. بس مشان اذا في ناس بيسالوا والله هذا بيشتغل على عرق معين مش اخر، لا احنا بنفرجي انه احنا كل الدراسات اللي عملناها شملت جميع الاعراق الموجوده بنسبه تمثل او تشبه اللي هي تمثيل بالمجتمع الامريكي. وهون الشغله الثانيه برضه كمان اللي بيسالوا طب انا اذا عندي هدول الدراسات هل شملت ناس موجود عندهم امراض مزمنه؟ الجواب نعم. وعم نشوف هنا انه في ناس كثير من اللي عندهم مرض سكري او امراض المزمنه الرئويه الحاده، امراض الكبد او امراض قلب كانوا مشمولين بالدراسات اللي انعملت من بفايزر موديرنا وجونسون جونسون. وهي الارقام موجوده لكم، اللي بحب يطلع على هاي الارقام برضو موجوده متوفره لكم.
So again, this is very quickly talking about the variants, and these are the ones that are identified when the slides were put together. We already are hearing about all those new variants, double mutants, triple mutants in India. So the good news is most of the vaccines are effective against the new variants. And so obviously, since Johnson & Johnson trial was much later than the first 2, those were already seen. And so it is the way the viruses behave that with time they change. And that's why a lot of times the viruses never disappear. They always are around. We talk about influenza viruses. And so it is the way the viruses act that because they replicate and they grow, and by changing the way the structure is, and that's called variant or variants. So what started out in Wuhan, from that till now, we are identifying on a regular basis different structure. It is fairly confidently being spoken to and being studied, and then more and more data will come out because the variants are new, that the vaccines are effective against the new variants, but nothing will equal the fact that you still have to continue wearing a mask and keep social distancing for now, till we get to the point where the overall virus activity and positivity rate goes down, and we'll get there. We're not gonna, always wear masks when we are in public. It is going to happen, but it is going to take its time. And we just want to talk about variants a little bit, because a lot of people think that vaccines might not work against variants, but the concept currently is they do.
هلا اللي الفيروسات بشكل عام ممكن تتطور او تصير تتغير او تعطي اشكال او انواع مختلفه. هلا احنا من وقت ما شفنا اول فيروس بووهان بالصين، في عندنا مجموعه من اللي هي فيروسات كورونا اللي هي المتحوره اللي عملت او انواع مختلفه من الفيروس نفسه. زي ما احنا بنشوف، يعني في محطوط بالسلايد عندنا هنا في 4 انواع مختلفه من الموجودين. وهلا زي مثلا البي 117 هذا هلا موجود باكثر من 80 بلد. هلا الشغله الثانيه اللي بدنا نعرفها انه هذه جزء من مرحله من التطور اللي هي متوقعه بسلوك الفيروسات. لو نفكر فيها، في عندك فوق 30 مليون شخص اصيب بالفيروس، اكيد هذا الفيروس حيصير يتحور، حيصير يغير نمطه، يغير طريقته بكم الإصابات الهائل اللي صار. مع هدولا اللي بيصير الفيروس ممكن ينتشر بشكل أسرع، بشكل أسهل، وهذا الإشي اللي كتير مهم بالنسبة لنا مشان التباعد الاجتماعي ولبس الماسك لسه مهم ولسه ضروري. مع العلم انه احنا على الثقة انه اللقاحات اللي عم نعطيها برضه بتوفر ان شاء الله مناعة لهدول الانواع المختلفة من الكوفيد الاصلي اللي كان موجود او اللي شفناه واللي هلا احنا بنلقح مشانه. ف مع كل هذا الاشي لازم لساتنا نعمل تباعد اجتماعي ونلبس الماسك. احنا قربنا نوصل لمرحلة اللي هي ان شاء الله ممكن قريبا نوصل لهالمرحلة انه مش لازم انه خلص نقدر نطلع بين بعض بدون لبس الماسك، بس حاليا لازم نكثف الجهود تبعتنا مشان نوصل لمرحلة انه عدد الإصابة الإصابة الجماعية قليل جدا لدرجة انه نحكي خلص هلا اخذنا المتنفس تبعنا.
Thank you. And again, and I know we're running over time, but we're actually doing 2 presentations, right? So it is twice as much time. And so again, these, as we stand now, vaccines are becoming fairly accessible. You know, January, February, all the way till early March, they were very, very restricted. They were being released based on the risk factors and priority groups. And initially they were for nursing home workers and healthcare workers, which was 1A. But as of now, most of the places in Chicagoland are eligible. Most of the groups are eligible. All adults are eligible. And there are several places where you can get them, and those are listed. And again, if you have any problems getting an appointment, please let us know through Worry Free Community. We would be happy to schedule sessions, and so make sure everybody who needs one, wants one, gets vaccinated.
هلا برضه بدنا نحكي انه الفاكسين من قبل اول ما بلشنا كان الفئة التي المعرضة لخطر الفيروس بشكل أكبر هي كانت تأخذ الفاكسين، زي الأطباء اللي كانوا يشتغلوا في دور العجزة. لكن هلأ كل حدا eligible إنه يأخذ الفاكسين. طبعا متوفر بكثير محلات. احنا زي ما حكى دكتور مهاجن، احنا إذا في حدا مش قادر يوصل ياخذ الفاكسين، فالرجاء تواصلوا معنا عن طريق Worry Free Community. احنا موجودين بنحاول نساعدكم ونعطي أي سيشنز إذا بنقدر.
Next slide. So again, next, there are several questions that are for your use, and And I think with that, we can open for questions. And again, some of this we have already reviewed. Just I will again quickly summarize what's on this slide. These are the most common questions, and several of them we have answered. Just a couple of things that are not probably discussed were, one is this mandatory? No, it's not mandatory. Some employers might make that decision, and that is the purview of your employer. But government has not made these vaccines mandatory, but again, we are highly recommending it. Again, people talk about, oh, if you give me mRNA, it is going to change my DNA and change who I am. It doesn't. We talked about it, that this technology is the mRNA doesn't go into somebody's DNA to alter it. It was only there to deliver the signaling for making the spike protein, and that's what it does. And then rest is done by our own body. So that's that. And I think then there are several slides that are behind this that talk about the numbers and statistics around the studies and side effects and things like that. But this is really where we wanted to end and see if there are any questions. And again, I really want to thank Dr. Mubarak for hopping on the call. I know you're busy, you know, we texted you, or I texted you after we started this call, and I think it was very helpful. It is, and you have been so instrumental with our hospital program at some of the hardest hit COVID communities. So thank you so much. And again, thank you, Asim and everybody else on the call for getting us on this. Happy, I know there might be one question, but we can hang out for another few minutes if there are questions, either from the organizers or for people who have watched this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mahajan and Dr. Mubarak, for the informational session. It was really helpful. There is a few questions. So the first question is, if someone already got infected with COVID and they recovered, and it's been circulating around that you get like an immunity for like about 3 months, is there a way they can test and see if they have antibodies? And if they do, why do they need to get the vaccine since they have already recovered from COVID?
Very good question. I mean, so there are certain things that make sense in theory, right? And there are certain things that happen in reality. And I'm not going to, but I will give you an example of Dr. Mubarak, right? And Dr. Mubarak will probably volunteer that information himself. But so when you have COVID as a disease, we don't know the extent of immunity you get when you have the disease because it hasn't been studied. And we are noticing that 3 months after the disease, there might be reinfection, etc. We don't know, but it looks like it. With vaccines, there is, as we said, 95% up to efficacy. And as we are studying it, the vaccine-induced immunity or protection stays. And so yes, in concept, you can say, well, I have already antibodies, but there's no way right now to measure the antibodies, right? And if there was a way eventually where you can check the level of antibodies and can say, okay, well, you have enough protection. And if you look at it, if it comes from government, and if you already had protection, why would they waste precious vaccines, right? Because disease-induced immunity is right now not studied, and we don't want put anybody in danger by assuming that there will be enough immunity after the disease. And so there are a lot of things circulating, or maybe people after disease can get one vaccine instead of two. But the recommendation right now is that anytime 2 weeks after or 90 days, however, recommendations you want to follow, you should, if it is available to you, you should get it. And that vaccine-induced immunity is a little more studied, and we don't want to put people, because we don't have enough information. And Dr. Mar, I think you probably can speak to that from personal experience.
Yes. أنا بدي أجاوب دكتور مهاجن حكى بالإنجليزي جاوب السؤال، فأنا بدي هلا أجاوب بطريقة بالعربي. اللي دكتور مهاجن حكاه، أنا من الناس اللي انصبت بمرض كوفيد، انصبت بمرض كوفيد، وكان عندي هذا السؤال بعدين لما صار وقت الفاكسين، كان لازم أخذ الفاكسين ولا ما أخذه؟ هل المناعة تبعتي بتعطي؟ هل إصابتي بالمرض هذا أعطتني مناعة وما أعطتني؟ هلا النظرية شيء والتطبيق شيء آخر. إحنا دائما بنحكي هذا الإشي بالعربي، النظرية شيء والتطبيق شيء آخر. النظرية إنه صح، الإصابة بالمرض أنت جسمك بيعمل أجسام مضادة لحالها، وهي المفروض إنها تحميك من الإصابة بعدين. هل إحنا نقدر نجزم 100% إنه هذا الإشي موجود؟ الجواب لا، لأنه كل الفحوصات للأجسام المضادة اللي إحنا عنا إياها تعطيك إذا أنت عندك أجسام مضادة أو ما عندكش أجسام مضادة، بس ما بنعرف قديش الكمية من الأجسام المضادة لجسم مثلا طارق. هل هذه الكمية كافية إنها تعطي المناعة ولا مش كافية تعطي المناعة؟ فمشان هيك اللي إحنا بنعرفه هلأ إنه المناعة اللي جسمك بوفرها من اللقاحات قريبة ل 95%. فنشتغل نسبة اللي هي عملية نسبة واحتمالات. مشان هيك أنا أثرت نفسي، يعني تجربة شخصية، إني أخذ المطعوم لا هذا السبب. وبعدين الشغلة الثانية، السؤال دائما بنسأل، طب أنا هلأ انصبت، إمتى ممكن أخذه؟ خلال أسبوعين من الإصابة أو بعديها بتقدر تأخذه.
Thank you very much. شكرا دكتور طارق و Dr. Mahajan. There's another question. I'll say the question in English and translate in Arabic, so if anyone's still listening. So now, since the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has been approved to use again, and we've heard reports about the AstraZeneca vaccine, some European countries stopping using it. Has that been reapproved in those countries, and is it safe? And in terms of the blood clot issues, and I'll just say the question in Arabic. So بما إن المطعوم جونسون جونسون حصل إعادة لاستخدامه تاني، وبعد ما اتضح إنه هو يعني آمن لاستخدامه، هل بالنسبة لأسترازينيكا، عشان في بعض الدول الأوروبية كانت منعت استخدامه عشان الأعراض بتاعت جلطات الدم، إيه الفرق وهل هو آمن ولا لا؟
So how each country makes a decision is based on their own data, that the trials are done, and so it's not like a WHO decision that applies to all countries. And so instead of generalizing, you have to look at each country and their recommendation for each vaccine. So, for example, there were a lot of rumors last week that when we approve Johnson & Johnson again, it might be with some restrictions, as in, for example, in a few countries in Europe, when they halted AstraZeneca because of the blood clot risk, they came back and they only approved it for certain age groups. They did not approve it for the young, middle age, however I don't want to, I don't have the actual tech term, but it was not approved for the women in certain age group and for rest. So that is called restricted approval process, so here Johnson & Johnson has come back approved with some warnings, but it has not, there is no age restriction. It is still approved for all adults above 18. What will happen to AstraZeneca when it comes here? We don't know, because that will go through the whole approval process, and we will know. So the initial recommendation group, ACIP, goes through all the data, and they're experts who live and breathe this medicine and science. They, after looking at the data, both side effects and the allergic reactions and all the other adverse reactions, and when they look at all of that, they do the deeper dive in the studies, and then they make the recommendations. So what will happen to AstraZeneca's application for approval? We don't know. We will only know when we get those recommendations. But Johnson & Johnson in America, in US, has been approved to be used again for all age groups. There's no age group related restrictions.
هلا كل دولة بشكل عام عندهم إجراءاتهم وعندهم سياساتهم بمتى يوافقوا، متى يمنعوا إعطاء أي من اللقاحات. هلا إحنا معلوماتنا عادة بشكل عام عندنا المعلومات بشكل عام، احنا اكثر شيء على الجونسون جونسون اللي هو موجود عندنا في امريكا. من المعلومات البسيطه اللي بعرفهم او بنعرفهم عن الاسترازينيكا، واجين انا بس بدي يكون كل حدا عارف انه احنا ما عملناش، يعني بتمنى برضو كمان انه اي شيء بنحكيه برضو كمان دوروا ورانا، تاكدوا انه برضو المعلومات نعطيها برضو كمان صحيحه وواضحه. في بعض البلدان حطوا بنحكي انه استرازينيكا ممكن ينعطى لفئة اعمار معينه، مثلا 30 فما فوق، نساء مثلا في اعمار معينه ما ينعطى، فاعطوا اللي هي سمحوا لكن بتحديدات معينه او بفترات عمريه معينه او بفترات عمريه معينه. اللي بنقدر نحكي لك اياه انه الجونسون جونسون هون بامريكا الجلطات الدمويه اللي صارت اللي هم هدول الجلطات الدمويه للوريد اللي حوالين الوريد اللي بدخل حوالين الدماغ، مختلفه شوي عن الجلطات اللي حكوا عنها الاسترازينيكا، الجلطات الدمويه اللي حكوا عنها استرازينيكا. لكن هون في امريكا احنا سمحناها بدون اي تحديد لفئات معينه، اعطيناها بس اي حدا للعمر 18 فما فوق. و بعرفش اذا ممكن لما يتوفر معلومات عندنا بعدين عن استرازينيكا، خاصه لما يدخلوا هلا بمرحله الموافقه عندنا بالاف دي اي بامريكا، ممكن ناخذ معلومات اكثر عنهم، نشوف كيف صار كان بيوروب وتجاربهم معه.
So I wanted to see if anyone on the call has a question that would like to unmute himself and ask.
I have a question. So Johnson & Johnson, they said that they had a blood clot. So do we know who are the people who got the blood clots? Whether they had a pre-existing condition, or is it a random somebody got it?
Great question. So 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 I can speak it off my memory, and then I can, so don't quote me, to it. I can also pull it up real quick. So so there were 15 cases reported, initially 6, but then it's expanded to 15. Majority of them were women from the age of, the average age was 37. And it happened anywhere between from day 6 to day 17, and the average date of after the vaccine was day 8. So really it happened in women of childbearing age, and a lot of them were associated with low platelet count. So that's kind of the data we have, and I can, as I said, quickly look up on the exact numbers, but it was a very, very distinct pattern on who got these blood clots.
So that leads me to another question for you. So the people who has they're anemic, or they have a lower red blood cells, should they not be taking the Johnson & Johnson, do you recommend, or?
I want to do justice to this question. So the guidance on who gets it is still yet to come out completely. And so low blood count, which is generally anemia, is different than low platelet count, which is platelets are the clotting, the part of blood that help the blood to clot. And so those are two different things. And I would say if you have blood disorders of any kind, and the vaccine that is being offered to you is Johnson & Johnson, it is definitely something that you should refer to your primary care physician. I don't think there's a general guidance on that, but based on low platelets or low hemoglobin, or either some kind of blood disorder that has to do with clotting, like thrombophilia or hemophilia, all of that, it is currently said that ask your physician, and it is more than likely that they will then ask some blood specialists or hematologists before making those recommendations. But as of now, and I guess that I haven't completely, it's all evolving since yesterday. But there is, I'm not aware of any generalized restrictions on who should not be taking it. And again, that information is coming and it is getting available. It's just for us to review it and make those recommendations.
All right. I want to end here because we've been over time for quite a while. And I want to thank Dr. Mahaj and Dr. Mubarak for this great and wonderful session and addressing all our questions and concerns. I want to also remind everyone on the call, I also want to thank the Worry Free community team for setting this up and all the logistics and technical aspects of this. I want to remind everyone that you can visit our website, worryfreecommunity.org. We do have a dedicated COVID-19 page, which we update regularly with the latest news and resources that are available to the community. Also, you can call us, and we have dedicated community healthcare workers to answer your questions and help you throughout this stuff regarding COVID-19 or regarding any general health matters. So thank you so much, everyone. وشكرا دكتور مبارك وشكرا كل اللي استمعوا لنا.
Thank you. And we're here. You'll have our information. Anytime, any questions, please reach out to the organizers.
أكيد، وإحنا دائما متوفرين، وشكرا لاستضافتنا.
Jazakumullah khairan, and thank you
Yes,
again, both the doctors and all the people who have made this possible.
Are you gonna stop the live streaming on YouTube?